we want to grow that number, and we want to spread that out a little bit more. And I'm very, very, very aware that we would like to do that, particularly with the western part of Kenya, including, of course, where you are cited today in Kisii. And of course, you can see there that we have collaborations, of course, with the Kenya Medical Research Institute. So there's quite a lot of health emphasis in some of the things that we're doing. But we also have collaborations between Kenyan institutions and campuses in China and Malaysia, but to a smaller extent. But obviously, when you're collaborating with the University of Nottingham, you're collaborating with all those three sites, campuses, as it were, and those campuses are available if that seems to be the right thing for our partners. Okay, so I'll just carry on. So if you then look at the most common themes that come out of those publications, again, you see a health emphasis here. So health, whether we are looking at the cost analysis, whether we're looking at some of the diseases that actually are relevant, you see there a very strong emphasis on health. So that says to me that actually we've got a firm ground to build on in terms of what we do within the Kenya-UK Health Alliance. So we have already here some very, very good foundation to build on. One of the things that we consider to be very, very important in any partnerships that we form, particularly in terms of maintaining those partnerships and actually ensuring that they remain into the future, is a student exchange. So we see students actually as being core, exchange of students as being core in any partnership that we form. And of course, we are very pleased to have a significant number of Kenyan students in the UK. Some of them are in our China and Malaysia campus. And you see there the number. And within the UK, we have one of the largest number of students from Kenya. I think we are the third largest. That may change, may go up and down. And so Kenya as a country is very, very important to us in terms of the students who come to us and the diversity that actually they bring into our student population. Some of those, of course, are self-funded. Some of them are funded in different ways, but we also have a very generous scholarship offer that is available to some of those students. And many of the students who are studying here actually are funded through scholarships that the University of Nottingham offers. And I give a couple of examples there. Developing Solutions, which is probably one of the largest scholarship schemes amongst equivalent universities in the UK. And obviously, those will be in the mix in our conversations on how we may be able to collaborate going forward. We also have teaching partnerships. And of course, we have quite a large one actually that is delivered on postgraduate certificate of education, where we train 50 students annually. But we also have MOUs with several other universities, and I've listed them there. And of course, that list, we are happy to see that list grow. But for every MOU that we sign, we are very keen that there is activity. So we are less interested in the signing, we are more interested in the activity that takes place. And with each one of these universities that are listed here, we have quite a significant amount of activity. And of course, I know that today this summit is hosted by Kisii University. And I think we are very keen to start doing together, not just with Kisii University, but the other universities in Western Kenya. Maseno University, we are already working very well with, but I'm sure we'll be able to grow that partnership as we move forward. So what are the possible areas of collaboration? And again, I have really just picked those that I think that are relevant to what we're discussing today. And this is just a relatively short list. There's a lot more that we can do. Whatever you are thinking about, I'm happy for us to talk about. We have great expertise in with respect to cancer research, and I know that is a particular area of emphasis as we have been communicating over the last few days. But beyond just the research, the clinical research, we are happy to look at areas in which we can offer some expertise in terms of training at different levels. And of course, I've already mentioned teaching partnerships, but one way that we find it very useful to be able to collaborate with institutions, other institutions, is to have teaching partnerships where we have cohorts that actually are able to come to us for training on a regular basis. That seems to work very, very well. So I've just sort of given you a snapshot of the University of Nottingham. I have hopefully expressed our enthusiasm for this alliance and for the things that we would like to do. Sorry that none of my colleagues are there today. I think the timing was just not right for us, but we are planning a visit to Kenya in August, and I hope that we'll meet some of you during that visit. And of course, part of that has been catalyzed by the fact that recently at Nottingham we have hosted delegations, and I'd like to mention that we did host delegations from not only Kisii University but from the county. Of course, the current host of the meeting, Dr. Atebe, was part of that delegation. I did meet with Professor Akama and some of your colleagues also from the county. So we really look forward to taking those discussions forward in the context of this alliance. So I did want to just be very, very brief, and that is really all I wanted to do, just to really express our enthusiasm and to say that as a university, we're really looking forward to working with the different stakeholders, but particularly with the universities that are going to be at the core of this alliance. And from a personal point of view, of course, as I say I was made in Western Kenya. I was made in Kisii. I'm very much a Kisii boy, and so clearly that is something that I always like to declare. So yes, on behalf of the University of Nottingham, but I'm also very much part of you, if you like. So therein lies even more enthusiasm. Thank you very much.
Let's put our hands together for Professor Robert. Asante sana.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the warm reception that you gave us when we were there a few weeks ago, the colleagues from here. And thank you for being there for us, and we are sure that we are going to advance this particular initiative to even greater heights. Asante sana, salimia watu wetu hapa.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's put our hands together for Professor Robert again. Thank you. So we will now move to the next session, which is basically on research, innovation, and collaborations. We are going to have some of the presentations, physical presentations here, and some of them will be virtual. So we request my friend and colleague from the University of Nairobi, Dr. Donald Kokonya. Dr. Donald Kokonya is my friend from the University of Nairobi. He probably knows. Let's put our hands together for him. Yes, he's not now from the University of Nairobi. Dr. Please come forward. You are going to be the next to chair this particular session we are going to have. Dr. Kokonya is very well known to me. We were actually contemporaries. He was the editor-in-chief of the Nairobi Medical Journal, must have been during those days at the University of Nairobi. Right now is the dean of the School of Medicine at Kisii University of Science and Technology. He's the one going to chair the next session, which deals with research, innovation, and collaborations. Now, we would expect that Dr. Jackson Omolo is around. Omoto? Yeah, please come out front. We are not going to worry you from far, just come and be with us. Professor Lukoya Atuoli from the Aga Khan University Medical College. It will be virtual. Kindly, Professor Lugoye, you'll be ready wherever you are so that we are able to do it. Joseph, are we going to make another presentation in this session? No, so we'll have 3 presentations and then you will chair the session which we'll discuss and then we'll field the questions to Dr. Kerry as well at the same time. Then we can save time. Dr. Ron, please come. No, you are coming here, not there. You are coming here and present from here. We can continue. Thank you very much. Let's put our hands together for the presenters. Thank you.
Dr. As to share this session for the such innovation and collaboration. And our team probably understand the job spending. Thank you so much. My name is Jackson Omoto. I'm an institution gynecologist in my specialty. I work at Maseno University, the School of Medicine, which is a young school of medicine. We graduated about 4 cohorts of doctors. I am here to represent our dean, Professor Stephen Ogendo, who was not able to come because he's at the University of Nairobi on some official and so our protocol, sir, ladies and gentlemen, I did not a formal presentation as such, but I would like to just share with us the thoughts that have gone through my mind as I have sat through this particular summit and listening to various presentations that have gone out. And first, I would like to pass gratitude. I think my colleague and peer, Dr. Ongara, for having a wonderful Vice Chancellor and Chair of our Council, who have been through over here. And just mention one of the things the Chair of Council is talking about. In Africa here, we are faced with a double challenge because as we look at the vision 2030, a blueprint that was government blueprint to move these countries to a middle income economy by the year 2030. We have made great progress in terms of improving the lifestyle of our population. And so improvement in lifestyle comes with its own challenges, and I'm talking about the communicable diseases that we are experiencing, the non-communicable diseases that we are experiencing in our country now. Unfortunately, we have not, in the same measure, addressed the burden of the communicable diseases. And therefore, we are having a burden of both communicable and non-communicable diseases. as we talk about medical training, and as somebody who worked within the clinical setting and now in academia, I find immense challenges in the way we handle systems and infrastructure surrounding our medical training. I would have loved, or I think maybe Professor Lukoya will make a presentation after me. And I'm aware that at the Kano University Hospital, the policy of their training is somehow the policy framework of the relationship between the university and the hospital is somewhat different from what we have at Maseno University. Because I'm aware that in the public universities training, the issue of clinical placement sites is a major challenge. And as I was chatting with my colleague, Dr. Oitara here, I was just getting to him that maybe some of the challenges that is going to encounter come next year as the students move from the preclinical to the clinical training. Challenges associated with the clinical placement sites. And yet, it's important for us to note that we need to train this quality healthcare workforce to meet the gap that our chair of council was talking about. And so I am wishing that in the course of this partnership, as we attempt to handle, among other things, we would handle the issue of the policy framework governing our universities and our hospitals. I'm aware, like in the Maseno University where I come from, the hospital belongs to session to the county government, and we operate under memorandum of understanding with the hospital. I don't know how it works elsewhere. I think it may be different from in Kano University Hospital. I would like to tell you just three of the things that I've heard from the presentation, that we could put some boots on the ground after the summit and see how things can and work going forward. And I want to mention first the issue of simulation. I think one of the presenters talked about it. And the issue of telehealth and the high project, the health innovation in a virtual platform. As the VC will realize come next year that it is very expensive for a university to hire staff, particularly for clinical training. In Maseno University, I think we are the clinical consultants, we are about 28 of us. And we are always asked how comes 4 consultants are teaching 50 students. I think the chair of council understands very well the intensive workforce that goes into medical training. And so as we engage in this partnership, it will be important for us to see where we can leverage so that resources that are available for us to use, we can take advantage of technology so that we can be able to plug the gap that we have. In terms of research, at Maseno University, we are abiding research institution in medicine, as I attend this summit here, I'm aware that I have a different standalone assignment that I have to engage our counterpart hospital tomorrow. There is a device that we had innovated for giving what we refer to as paracervical anesthesia to the patients. We are doing an operational procedures, and we've been doing validation of that device, medical device. We got approval from the Pharmacy and Customs Board, and we want to go further in recruiting Kisii Teaching and Referral Hospital as one of the sites that we can use the device so that it can benefit patients, the patient experience as they come to seek medical services. Otherwise, once again, I would like to thank Kisii University so much for inviting us, and I would like to reiterate that as one of the spokes, and especially considering that in the Kisii County area there is a robust HIV care treatment program. It's one of the areas that we could bring in strength in terms of collaboration. And so lastly, I want to say that we are going to put our boots on the ground over the various issues that are coming up so that we move from discussion to action going forward. Thank you so much.
I wish to inform the audience that the presentation should have come from Professor Kisii. It's not available. So, given that it's not in, we move to the next session. And the next session will be chaired by David. Before you come on, just want to make some comments that this project between the Bay and Kenya is an initiative of the President and the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. And the Kenyan President has had a series of efforts towards the realization of universal coverage, including development of this infrastructure for healthcare. He has also taken up the Big Four agenda. Again, in the Big Four agenda, we have healthcare, and then there's the mission better as Children has said, which aims at transforming the industrial country by 2030. And at the moment, it's called upon scholars who are here to appreciate the need for us in academia to link up with practice and to steer development in the country. When we met 2 days ago at the Safari Park, 2 days ago, we touched a bit on universal coverage, and been talking to my peer, Dr. before comes. He's going to preside over issue on universal coverage. And this universal coverage will require the health systems approach driven by primary health care, and within it, we shall have the key core drivers of health systems, namely governance, health financing, human resources for health, where we fall in, are also healthcare service delivery, some essential medical supplies. Then we have community health, we have health information system, and finally, we are adding the 8th component, which is humanitarian response. And humanitarian response comes in and because we in third world countries, we are operating most of the time in crisis, and the major approach which we need to come out from. So before you come out, we're going to be the program. So it's my pleasure now to invite my peer, Dr. Roger Satete.
And thank you very much for that information. We will go to, as I think Dr. Okonya has already said, there are key drivers, they are core drivers. So, and ours, our area, of course, is human resource for health, which is very critical. And this is where we exist as universities and research institutions. Of course, there is also research into health products and technologies. I'd like to request that one of our presenters, Nick Bass, Dr. Nick Bass from East London NHS Trust, should be ready to make the presentation. And if he's able to share, that will be fine. But we have his presentation with us. So we have moved to the theme of human resources training for quality universal health coverage. And I'm sure that we were going to have Professor Kelly, but we want to save our time and energy because we have run out of time. So we sort of consolidate what is left into shorter time. So we'll have Dr. Nick Bass joining us online to make his presentation. And then thereafter, we'll have a presentation from the Director of Health, Kisii County, Dr. Geoffrey Otomo, who is not here, but Dr. Baji will present on his behalf. And those two, of course, will wrap up the human resource training for quality leadership. And then we move to the next step, which will be the final one. So, Dr. Nick, are you online? Oh, can you please put our hands together again for Dr. Nick? I don't know what the Nick you have just got one more time.
Yes, hi, I'm online. Am I able to share slides or share screen or?
Yeah, just share, please. The screen.
Right, can you all see that and hear me okay?
That's fine.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you very much indeed for the kind invitation. So big thanks to John for inviting me and organizing this. And I gave a similar talk in Nairobi on Monday. So this is a slightly altered version of that. Just to say, I work in East London here in the UK, and I'm very sorry I can't be there in Kenya, in Kisii with you all, but another time maybe. We have what we like to think is a kind of trailblazing example of global health partnerships between the UK National Health Service and partners in low and middle income countries. And I will confess now that I have very limited experience with Kenya. We did contribute to a research project a couple of years ago at the beginning of the COVID pandemic with partners at Edgerton University and partners from Haifa University, Technion University in Haifa rather. But my real experience is with nearly 2 decades of work with neighboring Uganda. And I was asked to talk a little bit about how this can be used and lessons learned from this for supporting global health partnership work in Kenya. And my work is, I'm a psychiatrist by training, but I like to think a lot of what we do now is, and my role in particular is rather more sort of public health. And I don't want to get stuck in the mental health silo, but I will still emphasize that mental health remains sorely neglected across the world, and particularly over the last 2 years of the pandemic. And any attempt to build health systems anywhere and with any specialty will fail unless mental health is also included within that planning and delivery. So I just want to give you, I realize that everyone's been talking very, very warmly and passionately about their various projects and everything that they can bring to partnership with Kenya. But I would just like to draw everyone's attention to the scale of the global health distribution and just how unequal things are across the world when we're trying to consider the challenges of supporting a health system in countries such as Kenya. So some recent data that was shared at the CUGH conference in America in March, where I was talking, from a French colleague, Agnès Souka, out of 8.5 trillion US dollars spent on health in the year just before the pandemic broke, 42% of global health spend was in and by the United States alone, with almost the same amount spent on other high-income countries. Kenya, I think, falls into the bracket. It's somewhere on the cusp of low and middle income. But as you can see there, the proportion of health spend in lower middle income countries, and particularly in low income countries, is shocking. Across all low income countries, less than 0.25% of global health spend goes into health in all of those countries put together. So, but what is also interesting is that regardless of whether you're a rich country or a middle or a poor income country, around about 60% of health spend is actually from governments, and about 40% is out of pocket. And again, less than 0.25% is actually comes from external sources such as aid budgets or charity. So I think these are really important statistics. And I'd also like to bring to your attention the state of probably the top 10, if you like, 10 horsemen of the apocalypse, threats that the world as a whole faces. These will be in varying degrees, depending on which part of the world you're in, but all of them affect all of us. And at least 3 of them are potentially existential, i.e. have the risk of threatening the very existence of humanity. So again, when planning our health services, I think we need to consider what the real priorities are for all of us. Africa has particular issues, and a large part of this is down to changes in population, and refugees form a big part of particularly the central part of the continent. Now, your neighbours in Uganda, although it's a very small country in terms of area size, hosts the largest refugee population anywhere on the continent, and one of the largest in the world, and that remains the case. But obviously Kenya is also very familiar with the refugee situation too. This is set to increase over the rest of this century, and refugees will be a key feature of the 21st century. The causes of this are legion, but involve, amongst others, civil wars, which are rife in the region, but also climate change, which has been discussed a lot, particularly at the Nairobi meeting the other day. And despite everything, we can argue about this. I think we are now in an era of relative deglobalization, but it's hard to tell how long this will continue for. But we also need to realize that that is a massive challenge to supporting each other, given the political direction of most parts of the world at present. Drought and famine are often the products and drivers of this situation, and you will all be aware of the global supply disruptions which are occurring in the wake of the pandemic. We're now faced with a situation of global inflation too, and all of this leads to concerns about food security, which is a massive, massive threat to everyone, particularly the poorer people, which then subsequently has an impact on health and medicines and drives further numbers of refugees and internally displaced persons. So if that hasn't depressed you enough, just to point out a couple of other things that are going on. Now, is this a threat or an opportunity? What you see there is a picture of Murchison Falls National Park in Uganda, with obviously elephants in the foreground, but in the background there is the French oil company Total, which is drilling for oil and gas under Lake Albert. And on the one hand, this is Uganda's master plan for transitioning from a low to a middle income status country. But on the other hand, one has to consider the obvious effects of producing yet more hydrocarbons in the air and environment from burning of fossil fuels against actually the potential benefits of keeping it in the ground and concentrating more on those amazing creatures in the foreground. So research from the United States has shown that actually there's potentially more profit and greater GDP gains to be made from harnessing the natural resources of national parks and biodiversity than there is from putting these at risk to drill yet more fossil fuels. And we have real world examples like Bahrain in the Persian Gulf, for instance, which has actually become wealthier since it ran out of oil and has transitioned to a more technology focused economy. And I would again like to suggest that there are positive ways of avoiding the use of fossil fuels and exploitation of this, and actually doing rather better than by relying on them. There's been a lot of talk about both health and wealth, and earlier on we heard from Marlon Brown, for instance, about the opportunity for developing a health economy, which will then drive better wealth. And of course, this is the links between the two are well documented. And here's a example that I'm sure many of you know from the Gapminder Foundation, showing exactly that correlation. And there you have Kenya sitting on the cusp of being a middle income or level 2, using Gapminder's designation, economic country. There was also a lot of talk about how to achieve universal health coverage status. And on the one hand, it would seem a harder challenge the poorer a country is, but on the other hand, one of the benefits of that means that the chances of having a high proportion of GDP spent on health when your income as a country is low is probably not very much. And the late William Baumol came up with a formula for actually determining which countries do achieve UHC and which don't. And his slightly controversial view was that if at any point a country is spending less than 5% of GDP on health, but wants to move to universal health coverage, they stand a very good chance of being able to do so. Whereas if health spend is already a higher proportion of that before achieving UHC, they are unlikely to do so. And this may be the major explanation for why a country as wealthy as the United States has not achieved UHC, and given that they spend 17% of GDP on it, is unlikely to do so anytime soon. Again, food for thought for countries such as Kenya, I think. So very briefly, our experience in neighboring Uganda, which has mainly been with mental health, but to a certain extent with broader community health. It's been running for almost 20 years now. And I hope there are a lot of lessons to be learned for both countries and beyond in the wider East African Union region. So Uganda asked us to get involved because the Ministry of Health and senior colleagues felt that mental illness was the second biggest public health priority after infectious disease, and that they really needed a long-term partner to help with this. And I think that was a brave thing for any country, particularly a low-income country, to publicly admit to. But given the amazing gains that they made in managing HIV in previous decades, and also their innovations in cancer care, I thought that this looked very, very promising for improving mental health, and so it has been. And we partner with colleagues and institutions right across the country, including Butibika, which is the Central National Tertiary Referral Hospital, but Makerere University, and your colleagues, the Uganda UK Health Alliance, of which we have long and profitable working experience. So more than happy to talk more about how this works to help develop the Kenya UK Health Alliance. Partners in the UK, key partners have been the Tropical Health Education Trust, which was spun out of the Wellcome Trust back in the 1980s by Professor Sir Eldred Parry, and they have been absolutely indispensable to everything that we do. But also in the last few years, Health Education England have been a key partner and also a consortium partner in our work in Uganda. And I see their involvement in Kenya too. So again, I hope there's opportunities for plenty of profitable mutual learning here. We've done a lot of work with the clinical officers who form the backbone of health services in Uganda. But our work has also been both hospital and community focused. We're particularly proud of our grassroots engagement work with local communities. And I cannot overemphasize how important that is in boosting the health, the knowledge, the awareness, the understanding, and destigmatizing, particularly in difficult diseases like mental illness, epilepsy, HIV, and such like, which all are hampered by this additional stigma of the illness in question. So we've also, in recent years, been doing some really, really groundbreaking work, I think, with peer support workers. So these are people with lived experience of mental illness, but that will also apply to many other kinds of illness too. And there's no reason why for other diseases, disorders, peer support work can't be a major factor in helping to engage communities and build health within those communities. The system of Commonwealth Fellows has also been really useful, which has allowed us to host colleagues coming to visits in the UK for periods of usually between 3 to 6 months at a time. And the benefits have not just been to Uganda, but we have learnt back and brought back tangible innovations from Uganda, which we are now applying locally in NHS services across London and beyond. And again, the long-term benefits of partnership should really be aimed at mutual benefit and not just as a one-way aid programme. So you've heard much from other colleagues about research, but again, I would totally support any opportunities to do this, particularly across specialties. There is so much to learn from the East African region, and here's just a handful of some of the what are sometimes called reverse innovations, but I think just innovations in the region that everyone across the world has benefited from. So the elaboration of the Epstein-Barr virus epidemiology and its role in Burkitt lymphoma, for instance, but also the first solid trials of trials of solid tumor chemotherapy, if you can call lymphoma a solid tumor, also took place not in Europe, not in America, but actually in Uganda. So an East African partnership example that has been life-saving for people right across the world. You will all be extremely familiar with M-Pesa technology, which was groundbreaking, and again was a partnership developed with Vodafone in Kenya, and which we are still slow to adopt even in rich Western countries. Smallpox eradication finally happened in partnership in East Africa. HIV reduction, I've talked about some mental health innovations which have arisen. And for those of you who don't know it, there's a fantastic organization called Medixus based in Nairobi, which who have been linked with BOBAB based in London, who provided some of the most enriching and fascinating talks during the COVID pandemic concerning broad scientific advances, but also particularly around the medical developments and knowledge related to the pandemic. And again, there's obviously a wealth of skills and knowledge based right here in Kenya that all of us would benefit from knowing more about and having access to. So global health partnerships, to finish up, really are in all of our interests. And what can we at East London bring to this that may be of benefit to Kenya and the wider region? We are, just to plug East London, the highest rated mental health delivery service in the UK, repeatedly so by our external auditors, the Care Quality Commission, but we also have some of the very best training anywhere in the country. And what working with us means is that partners have access to what my colleague at Health Education England, Jeb Byrne, would say is actually the largest health education resource on earth, which is the National Health Service. And we can draw on huge numbers of really expert people who are willing to provide their time free of charge on a voluntary basis for education and training and long-term support. But also this brings with it opportunities for research collaboration. And I think the sky's the limit, really. So it is about mutual benefit. We are expecting to gain from this, and this is about all of us learning. It isn't a one-way aid program at all. It is about all of us working together to solve difficult problems that are in everybody's interests. Capacity building is where we start, but we are also locally, nationally and internationally famous for our pioneering work in patient safety and quality improvement. And there's no time to really go into that today, but we are leaders in the field internationally on that. I am extremely keen that we're not just promoting a north-south partnership here, but between the UK and a lower income country, but that this is part of a wider network effect, and very keen to support south-south relationships. Cross-specialty working, again, there was a lot of talk about trying to break out of silos on Monday in Nairobi. And again, I completely agree with that. And mental health is not separate from everything else, but on the contrary, should be part of everything else. And we ourselves are moving rapidly to focusing more on climate health issues. But we also have, I personally got a background in genetics work and also even started my career as an oncologist, so before switching into psychiatry. So there's a lot of cross-disciplinary work that we can contribute to. Grassroots engagement I've already talked about, and building health in communities. And I think finally, it's probably as well to stop considering ourselves within the relationship of recipients of grants and aid versus donors, and just see all of ourselves as partners in something which is of mutual relevance. So with that, I'd like to say again a big thank you to John and colleagues Kisii and Nairobi for the invitation. More than happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. We are not going to take any questions at this point in time. Perhaps we just continue to the next presentation because we are very much pressed for time. Let's put our hands together for the Kisii. Thank you. Please stay online. There might be one or two questions
coming thereafter. We'll make a slight alteration. Dr. Bahati, you have a session which is coming, and I believe you should be able to make those remarks at the end when your session comes. The resolutions on the way forward, we'll do that and continue with the resolutions. At this point in time, I request that the HPT team, which we were told that you need essential medical products or essential medical supplies. We call them health products and technologies. You have the infrastructure, you have the buildings, you have the equipment, you have the personnel, but you need the consumables. You need data. So no more saying hakuna dawa. So I'd like to invite that team, that presentation on health products and technologies, team one, the second slide. And at that point, I'd like to invite Dr. Deborah Omedo, who is a pediatric hematologist and oncologist at Kisii Teaching and Referral Hospital, to kindly come up front. She's striving to provide quality health services to children living with cancer and blood diseases in Kisii and its environs. So she has a great vision that all children in Kenya will have quality health. Now, immediately after that, I believe Dr. Christine Kadiri, you are online. Please confirm if you are online, because we give you about 2-3 minutes as well. And Aline Kemundusi Stone, just go to the next slide. Next slide. That on the next one. Yeah, that just describes the people that I don't have to read that. Then Aline will come online. So I request that you load Dr. Deborah's presentation, which is the next one, dealing with opportunities in nutrition and vaccines and hematologic services. And then immediately thereafter, we'll have Dr. Christine Kadiri, and then Aline Kemundusi Stone, in that order. Just 3 minutes each. Thank you.
Afternoon, everybody. Yes, so we can go to the next slide. My name is Dr. Deborah Omedo, and I work in the Kisii and Referral Hospital. The first slide. This is the current map of Kenya. Sorry, next slide. Next slide. Yes. This is the current international food security based classification map of June to September 2022. And you can see that the majority of Kenya is in a crisis situation as far as food insecurity is concerned. The places with the exclamation marks, that is part of Turkana, Marsabit, Wajir, Mandera, and maybe a little bit of Garissa, had to have interventions, humanitarian organizations, to prevent them from going to the emergency stage. Otherwise, without the humanitarian intervention, they will have gone into the emergency stage. The yellow part shows that these are the parts of the country that are very stressed with food insecurity. And then where Kisii falls is the regions that have minimal food insecurity. Next slide, please. Next slide. So, even within the areas with minimal food insecurity, Kisii included, 1 in every 5 of the patients in the hospital suffers from severe malnutrition. And we know that severe malnutrition has an average mortality rate of about 30%. And sometimes the mortality rate can go up to 50 to 60%, depending on how late the patient has presented into the health facility and comorbidities that the patient may have. And so the situation is not good even within the places, the hospitals and the health facilities that are within the places that have minimal food insecurity. Next, please. So severe malnutrition is a disease that needs treatment. There are special nutrition products that give the right balance of micronutrients as well as macronutrients to be able to cure the severe malnutrition. And unfortunately, there is a severe shortage of these malnutrition products. Next, please. So, what are the raw materials that are used to make these nutrition products? These are things such as maize, soya beans, groundnuts, milk, sugarcane, sugar beets, milk. I just say that sorghum, even the avocado oil we're talking about, the bananas and all that kind of thing, and millet. Those are things that can be grown, at least in the agricultural good areas, which is seafood. Now, what can we do to make these products available? We could have manufacturing plants within the region where there's food agricultural products, agricultural viable places to make these nutrition products such that we eliminate malnutrition. The farmers in the region are motivated to have enough food for themselves and cash crops that they can submit. So this will submit to the factories and get well compensated for, and then that it can provide employment to both skilled and unskilled workers, such as food scientists, nutritionists, engineers, doctors, and all kinds of people, as well as unskilled workers who will work in these factories, to make sure that there's enough of these nutrition therapeutic products, not only for the county, but even for the rest of the region, especially the regions which are food, have a lot of food insecurity, and even in the world. And that way we can eliminate severe malnutrition and prevent it by treating the malnutrition when it's at the mild or moderate stage. So the next innovation is about vaccines. The previous speaker spoke about Epstein-Barr virus. Epstein-Barr virus was first discovered in Uganda, our neighboring country, and not very far from us, and it has been found to be a source of many cancers. It's a source of Burkitt's lymphoma, Hodgkin's lymphoma, other non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, apart from Burkitt's lymphoma, and all these cancers we're talking about here, including the HIV-related cancers, as well as other cancers, nasopharyngeal carcinoma, direct carcinoma of the cancer of the colon, lung, name it. Epstein-Barr virus is responsible for it. And Epstein-Barr virus is present in 9 out of 10 of all of us. And it's even worse in countries where there's overcrowding, especially in our county, and poor ventilation and poor sanitation. Next, please. So Epstein virus not only causes the cancers in the people without HIV and with HIV, but it also causes acute infections like infectious mononucleosis, which is quite common, as well as autoimmune diseases like systemic lupus erythematosus, rheumatic arthritis, Sjogren's syndrome, and all these other autoimmune diseases that are increasingly occurring in our society. So I call it Epstein-Barr virus because many people feel like the Ugandan scientists who led to the discovery of the virus when he worked together with Epstein and Barr was ignored. So last month, that is May 6, 2022, in the USA, the principal investigator, Jessica Schock, started a trial on the Epstein-Barr virus vaccine just last month. And Anthony Fauci, who is the head of the National Allergy and Infectious Disease Organization in the USA, was quoted as saying that a vaccine that would prevent or reduce the severity of infection with Epstein-Barr virus could reduce the incidence of infectious mononucleosis and reduce the incidence of EBV-associated malignancies, that is the cancers, and autoimmune diseases that we talked about. So, as Kenya moves towards vaccine manufacture, we have talked about COVID virus, COVID virus vaccine. Epstein-Barr virus is one of the things we need to put our eye on, because many of the cancers and many of the non-communicable diseases in our region actually stem from this. And so when we have our manufacturing plants, and if the trial is successful and that vaccine candidate is successful, that is one of the vaccines that can have a high impact intervention, not only in our region, but in the rest of the world. Other important vaccine candidates that may be important in our region are Streptococcus pyogenes, otherwise known as beta-hemolytic streptococcus. It causes pharyngitis, skin infection, acute rheumatic fever, which results into very severe rheumatic heart disease, of which we have so many children suffering, having very, very bad morbidity and mortality, and even adults too. Scarlet fever is post-streptococcal pneumonitis, which affects the kidneys, toxic shock syndrome, and necrotizing fasciitis. So getting a vaccine that can be incorporated in the normal expanded vaccine programs that can prevent this infection would go a long way in preventing so many diseases that are prevalent in our region. We know that the current tuberculosis vaccine available to us, sorry, please go back. The current vaccine, please go back, that is available to us for tuberculosis is the BCG vaccine. It's quite an old vaccine. It only has 30% efficacy in prevention of active tuberculosis. And as a result, so many people are still getting tuberculosis despite being infected. Having a more effective TB vaccine would be something that would also reduce a lot of disease burden in our region, especially the Lake region area, of where tuberculosis is one of the highest prevalences in this country. Then we currently have a malaria vaccine, which some of our donors from the Maseno University and many others played a big role in the invention of it, and it's currently being put out in bids in several parts of the country. Its efficacy is a little low, and there has been associated with some side effects. So working towards a better and more effective malaria vaccine would also be a thing that we should be able to put at the forefront as one of the spokes in the fight against malaria. So the next slide is a list of all diseases that can be cured by stem cell transplant. This includes leukemias, lymphomas, solid tumors like breast cancer, brain cancer, renal cancer, and even non-cancerous diseases like sickle cell, thalassemia, Fanconi's anemia, plastic anemia, and the rest of the list. In the world, bone marrow or stem cell registry, majority of the donors are Caucasian. So when a Black person in any part of the world needs a stem cell transplant, it's very, very difficult for them to get a match. Now, in Kisii Teaching and Referral Hospital alone, we have over 900 deliveries per month. And next slide. Next slide, please. That means we have placentas that are thrown away. And yet, if these placentas, the cord blood was harvested and a cord blood bank was made, we would be able to have stem cells that can cure very many cancers and non-cancerous diseases within the region and even in diaspora for people with African heritage who need a donor. One advantage of the cord blood stem cells are that there is very little graft versus host disease. And there's little trauma or risk to the donor because these are things that would have otherwise been thrown into the placenta pit. So these stem cells, if we harvest them, we have a policy and legal framework and good training of the health workers to be able to harvest and the places that can store the stem cells at the right temperatures, ability to have HLA typing for them, and an ethical way to make sure that the people who need them the most are able to get them, despite their economic background. It can be a game changer. Yes, so next, yeah, that's about all. I don't know if I had a...
What do you think, Dr. Mega? Thank you. Let's put our hands together, boy. Now, that is an investment opportunity for us. An investment opportunity. That's what we are looking at as well. Do we have Dr. Kadiri online? Please also check if Adine is online. Christine, yes, she online. Dr. Christine, I believe we did mention her name. She's the Dean Faculty of Health Sciences, Egerton University. We'll give a few minutes, 2-3 minutes, so that she can make a very brief discourse on health products and technologies. Dr. Christine, karibu.
Good evening. Thank you, Kisii University, for this opportunity to interact with our visitors from the UK. And thank you, the Ministry of Education, for the meeting that we had on Monday. Very invigorating and good discourse that is going on. So I'll just make a brief presentation on local innovations that can spur and stimulate us as the centers of excellence as we embark on this journey. Okay, so why are we talking about locally made things? In Kenya, we like to say buy Kenya. And so I think during the COVID period, we realized a lot of things that we could have been doing as local manufacturers and local industries. And one of the things that has come out is the cost implications that come with things that have to be exported. So everything that we were using during COVID initially had to be imported into the country. And we got companies that now became innovative and started making masks and personal protective equipment. And these now, obviously, if they are locally made, then the cost implication to the Ministry of Health, the hospitals, is reduced by a very large margin. The other thing why we should support local industries is because of the time. The time that is taken for these medical and non-medical consumables to be imported into the country can take a bit of time. And during COVID, I think we realized that some of course, the flights were grounded, the shipping companies were no longer functional. And so you find that sometimes even medications just for normal illnesses aside from COVID were not being available or were not available in the hospital. And you have locally produced drugs, locally produced vaccines, as Dr. Omedo has alluded to, will reduce the time that these drugs and these consumables take to reach the patients in the hospitals. Then, of course, the local drugs and the local manufacturing will provide opportunities for new skills for both medical or pharmaceuticals and non-pharmaceutical consumables. For example, in Nakuru, we got a company called Bedi, which is mostly a clothing company. But during COVID, they came up with personal protective equipment, and you didn't have to rely on PPEs that had to come from other countries. And yet we had the pandemic going on as it were. Then these local manufacturing companies will create employment, both at the manufacturing point, because then if we are encouraging use of local manufactured things, then obviously the need will grow and employment opportunities will come up. Then at the end of it, at the end of the manufacturing point, these drugs, these non-medical consumables or non-pharmaceutical consumables will have to be taken up by the hospitals. And here we want to stress a lot about our centers of excellence, try and encourage, especially the manufacturers within our own counties, okay? And so even in the hospitals, then we'll need expertise of people and human resource for health within our hospitals and our training institutions. Then of course, the money, the source of revenue, these local manufacturing industries are sources of revenue. And at the end products can also be patented and be exported to be used in other countries. Then part of our teaching as training institutions, we have realized that we need to teach our students other ways of survival, health systems management, to be innovators, to be critical thinkers, to be researchers. And this then we can integrate the aspect of innovation and the aspect of, you don't have to sit in a clinic and treat patients. You can be a researcher, you can be an advocate for these patients in another area, not necessarily in a hospital. So we can integrate the essence and the aspect of innovations and research in our day-to-day training as we teach our students. Then of course, if we get stuck in innovating a product or a vaccine or a drug, this opens up avenues for collaboration. Now we go to KUKA and we go to Staffordshire and University of Manchester and ask them, how did you go about this? How did you get over this speed bump? And this will open up avenues for collaboration and bring more expertise into our products. Then of course, I'm happy I've come after Dr. Omedo because she has spoken about nutrition and at the basic level, what can be done. During COVID, and even up to now, we realized that it was not just the medication that we were taking. People went into steeping with eucalyptus oil, use of lemon and ginger and hot water and honey, natural products that are available. And so this, when we move towards innovation, we still have to go back to our roots and find out what are the other things that can be done and, promote planting of these trees, okay? And encourage growth in other sectors, like in the nutritional sector, in the health promotion sector, in the exercise and farming, so that, as a collaborative, then it's not just about medication, it's about preventive therapy, nutritional therapy, and all the other things that come into play when you are managing our patients. Then our centers of excellence in provision of and realization of universal health coverage in our country will provide holistic healthcare to the common mwananchi or to the common village patient, okay, with the locally produced goods and services for both prevention, treatment and care and cure. And encouragement of locally produced medical supplies and innovations will also be readily available for utilization in the hospital. And even the patients themselves, they'll be proud to say that they have been treated with a locally sourced drug. So as we go forward with the KUKA initiative and the establishment of the SEHET, we hope to approach our local industries, our local manufacturers, and come together as well with KUKA and grow the health system of our country. Thank you for your time.
For really stimulating us. Can we have Aline? Aline, you're online? Hi, Aline.
I think, can you hear me?
That's Aline.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please proceed with your presentation. Karibu sana.
Asante sana. Thank you so much for this opportunity and for this privilege. Thanks to the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Education, the UK Alliance, the Kisii contingent. I am so sorry I'm not with you in person. You are dear to my heart, all of you, because of the work that you do and the commitment that you have to the work. And I think collectively we will bring about the needed change in the healthcare industry in Kenya. I consider myself a Pan-Africa business strategist, though I am a trained lawyer. I work and live in Maine, but I was born in Kisii, and my home is in Nyaribari, Masava. Where I live now, I manage a small consulting firm, and I manage a team of global advisors and strategic partners that assist US-based companies that are looking to enter the African market. We try to facilitate sustainable relationships between Africa and the US through a lot of solutions that we offer. But specifically to today's conversation, I work in not only just the telecom space, but also I work with a lot of healthcare technology companies that are looking to venture into the healthcare industry in Africa and specifically in Kenya. So how I do it is we do it by identifying key partners that are willing to explore the intersection of technology, innovation, and democratization of healthcare delivery. So specifically, at the moment, the interest that most of my clients have is in the space of plant-based therapies and how technology and innovation can advance integration of such therapies in healthcare delivery in Kenya. And the other important point that I don't want to forget to mention today is also another niche that my clients have a vested interest in and would like to explore partnerships, whether they are business in nature or philanthropic in nature, is how to leverage existing and emerging technology to enhance quality healthcare delivery. So to give you an example, I currently have a client and a partner who's looking to roll out a new device that will streamline diabetes care and improve our telemedicine practices. I know we don't have a lot of time, but I want to tell you 3 important things. Why do I do this? Some of you might know I recently lost my dad, and he had a 7-year battle with cancer. And I had my own health challenges as well. And I think throughout my dad's journey and my own journey, I recognized that we cannot disengage, that healthcare delivery is it's an important and it's a space that we all, regardless of our background, whether we are trained lawyers, doctors, I think everyone needs to take an interest in. And so to me, that's the why I do this. The other reason why I want to partner with companies that are looking to enhance plant-based therapies is all based on my own upbringing. I was born in the village and I was raised in the village, and my own mother relied on those plant-based therapies to literally keep me and my siblings alive. She had 8 of us and obviously could not afford, healthcare as we know it now. And the nearest hospital was like 6 hours away. So like many of my community members, and most of you can relate with that, our forefathers relied on mostly food as medicine, as well as plant-based therapies to sustain us. And so I think as we advance in terms of, introducing vaccines into the mix, I'm glad that my previous panelists, co-panelists are integrating plant-based therapies as part of the conversation. And I'm glad that that's an area of interest now. As far as the technology piece with regard to diabetes, why am I doing that? My grandfather died at 109. He had diabetes and he managed his care through diet. but my brother, my youngest brother, has diabetes, and he's managing his care with a combination of diet and also with healthcare devices that he relies on daily to communicate with his healthcare providers. What's exciting about what we're doing today here is there's an underlying theme of collaboration. And I think we all know that the key to accomplishing anything and creating impact across the board is figuring out how we can all collaborate. I'm very inspired by the UK Kenya Alliance. I live in the US. John and I are in discussions on how we can expand this and bring on board a strong contingent of US-based organizations, institutions, so we can also form another strong US-Kenya alliance that can complement the efforts that you are all currently undertaking. As we all know that the Lake region is a very strategic region in the area. I am very excited about potential partnerships with Kisii University and other institutions within the Lake region. One of my clients is currently looking not only to roll out medical devices that will be useful in quality healthcare delivery, but they're also exploring the idea of assembly and manufacturing right here in our country and specifically in the Lake Basin region. So I'm hoping that today is just the beginning. It's an introduction to who I am, what I do, but also to the beginning of a long-term relationship where we can continue to collaborate and support each other. Like I mentioned, when we first met with some of you at the first forum here in Nairobi, the underlying theme for the Commonwealth meeting that's happening this week in Kigali is connect, innovate, and transform. And I think we're demonstrating that already. So I'm gonna encourage us to continue thinking about ways in which we can stay connected beyond this forum, because it's important for us to come together and have this robust dialogue about how we can improve healthcare across the board, but it's another to sustain it. So I am excited about the relationships and the connections we've all made. So let's continue to connect. I am extremely excited about the level of innovation that's being injected into the conversation and the opportunities that are presented to us. I know that as we think about this, building out this, medical hub, that we are also building a transformational hub. And we will be leaders in the region in showcasing how it can be done in Africa and hopefully create a model for other regions to follow. So thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you for organizing this, and I hope to meet you all in person someday. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aline. Let's put our hands together for her. Asante sana. Please take us to HPT. Thank you, Aline. It was really a pleasure having you, and you have already made one recommendation. We are going to have Kenya-US Healthcare Alliance. I believe that should be something like that. Is that a good idea? Please take note of that. Now, finally, this one is not even showing anything. Is it possible for it to be protected from local sources? It doesn't have to go to the satellite and then come back. Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay. Leave that lady, those ladies alone. They are finished. I just want to wrap up what they have just said. Now, this is slide number 3, and this slide explains the key pillars. There are 5 pillars. We are talking about health system strengthening. I think they are all there. And the area which we are now covering at this point in time is on trade and investment. Next slide. Now, yes, why do we need to do this? First and foremost, because there is a demand. There is a need, a very clear need. We are wasting materials which we could use for producing the stem cells that Dr. Meda is talking about. We are just throwing them away. We have a lot of food. Professor Basioti is there, agriculture. A lot of food going to waste, and yet our children are suffering from malnutrition. Can we accept that? it means we are not thinking. Something is wrong with us. So there are problems we can solve with local solutions. The materials are there, but all we need is to be a little bit innovative. We don't need to go to Catherine in the UK to come and tell us that you can actually convert this into a nutraceutical or convert the placentas you are throwing into the tank into stem cells to save lives. These are questions we need to ask ourselves before we go to the UK. Welcome. Have we thought well enough about the solutions which are homegrown? Investment. Next slide. So why are we saying this? We are importing 100% of our vaccines. We are importing 70% of our medicine. But some of them are so simple that we can actually make them in Yantraga. So simple. Some of them are being collected from Hapolerity in Kora. At the matter, at the meter annual. All these are available locally. We can do it. So there are radiopharmaceuticals we need to make. Unless you are able to generate radiopharmaceuticals here, the expiry date is so short, you can't import. They will expire before they arrive. For the cancer patient, you are talking about treating cancer. But if you don't generate the radiopharmaceuticals, what happens? You cannot help them. Diagnosis and so on. Immune therapy, you just talk about the drug product. Anyway, so the opportunities are there. So all we need to do is our partners help us. It appears we have reached some end of thinking capacity. So we need to generate ourselves. And in thinking about these areas, opportunity of investment, we'll be able to solve our local problems with minimal support from our partners in the UK. Now, obviously, if we are making vaccines, the market is large. It's not just that there's 2 million in China. We're talking about figures, which is over 400 billion. So, don't we have the capacity to attract this kind of investors to come to North here? 70 acres, Yantrago was 200, another one in Yangueta, 100, collectively more than 300 acres, 370 acres. So we have we can say the thought, the imagination, the vision, we can actually do it. So, and then we are not starting from zero. We have the land, which is a very important economic resource. We have people who are learned, very educated, professors, researchers, PhD holders. We can think about these things. And then, of course, we have ongoing research activities and we have collaboration with other universities and so on. So what we are saying is we can actually make most of these products here. We don't have to import 70% from other countries. And then we have a very favorable regulatory framework. You don't have to struggle to register your site of production. The Pharmacy and Packaging Board is able to support those green site plan reviews so that we can design effectively. And I'm happy that our brother Marlon Brown came all the way from the US to assist us to set up the master plan for development of health products and technology to supply our hospitals. We are building a center of excellence. We need to support that with the supply of what? Sustainable supply of health products and technology. You cannot have just infrastructure and personnel without what you are going to give patients. 92% or most of the interventions are based on health products and technology. When you patient comes to the hospital and you find a kuna dawa, this is a big problem. So we have this kind of linkages and we are able to actually take the initiative and actually produce most of the products, health products and technologies that we need locally, including the more complex ones. We have skills transfer, technology transfer. This can be done. Thank you very much for those who have already made presentations. They put our hands together to them, for them. Thank you. Thank you. Finally, if you have some comments.
Actually, you raise up each one of us. Let's just stand up. And remember when we were stupid, we used to say, stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down. Can we do that? Stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down. Thank you very much. You may sit down now. Finally, we have come to the last session. Thank you very much for being very patient. We will have the following. I would like to request that Dr. Bahati, you with your team of Dr. Stanley Ratemo, be ready with the resolutions that we have taken. But before we do that, I'd like to invite our lead from the UK, Professor Keith Brennan. We just make very short remarks because even if there it is 4 o'clock, here it is almost 6. So kindly take a very short time, and then John, you may just wish to say hello to us, and then Dr. Bahati, please be around here with the few remarks, closing remarks, perhaps from Dr. Tomo and the resolutions, and then finally we are going to have the closing remarks from our Vice Chancellor, Professor John Akama, and then is Dr. Kenani here? Yes, and Dr. Kenani can wave at us at the end. Dr. Kenani, please come and sit right next to us, and Dr. Bahati and Dr. Temo, as soon as you are ready, you just come and sit next to us. Kate, are you online? Kate? Please check for me. All right. As we wait for kids to come online, John, are you online? So Peter is online. Yeah, so if they are not ready to speak to us, you signal us when you see them unmuting. In the meantime, I'd like to invite Dr. Bahati. Please come and make those remarks you want to make. We have Dr. Tom, and then Stanley, while Dr. Bahati is standing here, you come with the resolutions. We finalize so that when you go to sit down, then you don't have to come back to your team. Dr. Bahati will be making a few remarks on behalf of Dr. Tom as we wait for Kim and John to unmute their microphones. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tene, for a very kind invitation to the BC. Representatives from the other universities presenting the VCs, Chair of the Kisii University Council, the Excellency Governors from the Lake Region Economic Bloc and their representatives, representatives from the Ministry of Education, colleagues from academic and clinical institutions, our esteemed guests from UK, and of course the guests logged in online. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I really appreciate your attendance being here and staying this late, showing how much you are dedicated to this project. It's actually very passionate to us. So I'm standing here on behalf of Dr. Geoffrey Otom, who is our county director, was here with us in the initial sessions in the morning, but had to leave due to some work commitments. So I'm just going to do this really to inform our guests from the US, plus from the UK, to understand the emergency setup, subdivided into 9 sub-counties. Kisii has an estimated population of about 1.3 people with 227,000 households, which are divided into 10 families each. And the average household size is about 5.7 individuals. We have more males than there are females, and the majority of people here are youth and less than 15 years of age, and that's where the passion of the video comes in. And persons above 60 years and above only 4.3% of the population. In terms of tiers of healthcare in Kenya, it's divided into 6 levels, starting from the community, dispensary, and all the way up to the referral facilities. And in Kisii, we have about 257 health facilities, with 94% being in the level 1 to 3, only 6% in level 4 and 5. And the average distance from a health institution or health facility to a household is about 5 kilometers. And the total bed capacity in the country is about close to 1,000 capacity. The road network is relatively good to all health facilities accessible via road, although that is relative to say that some areas that might not be very accessible. An emergency medical services was initiated in Kisii County after revolution, and initially the health service was in the central government before it was involved. And in 2014, Kisii County, among all the other counties in the country, received 9 ambulances, and this has gradually been improving, with some of them being taken back by the central government and counties being encouraged to develop their own ambulance services. And in 2016, we had 10 ambulances, which we then allocated this to each sub-county, as we initially said, with 1 ambulance in each of which. As time has gone by, we have emergency response that has given us 1 ambulance to the county, 2 highway emergencies, and now 2 ambulances that are located in the county referral for smooth referral of patients between counties.
Yeah, that looks like it.
I will show you, and I really hope you'll be able to see some of these ambulances tomorrow. One being an SCLS to facilitate very sick patients transfer, and the other ones being used for quote-unquote stable patients. So this is an investment that has been done in the counties to actually see that the number of ambulances does go up. As you can see again for that, this was before they are taken out to the sub-counties to do their work. So the operations of the emergency service, we do have a control center that does all the referral facilities, which explains the number that we were talking about yesterday over dinner, with a response team that is operational 24/7 for easy coordination of these emergency vehicles wherever they pass for. And these services are not free. Patients will have to pay for them, but if the service is requested within the county, then the fee is subsidized. We have to realize that sometimes the service is requested from other counties as well. So this slide above actually just shows how utility of ambulances has been from 2019 to 2021. And we see, interestingly, the obstetrics and gynecology, so maternal health is actually one of the majority users of emergency services in our county. So what are the challenges that we face? So we have few staff, staff turnover as we get that. Sometimes they are either out of training, the third partners training, they're not replaced, so the number does go down. Inadequate communication system between the dispatch and those who are bringing patients. It's not like we are yet to reach there when they actually call the patient in advance and the hospital to say you're expecting this patient. Sometimes you do get the patient brought to us surprise before we do the team. Inadequate maintenance of these ambulances, sometimes the fueling protocol that sometimes they are down. So you might have, yes, about 14, 15 of them, but they might not all be functioning at the same time. So inadequate capacity building, so yes, the for the initial training, how many of them have actually had or gone through the initial or thorough course of training? Not all of them. Equipping of them again, which is something we'll be able to see tomorrow. Not all of them are fully equipped. And of course, lack of standardized crew, as you see, in a slide where abroad they actually have a uniform that mentions the emergency and then the service, which we not have available. Therefore, what are the opportunities that we see from here is then to develop an ambulatory care for accident scenes, and this is through capacity building in the community, which is again, how do we tell the communities how to prepare their patients in case of a mass accident, for example? How do you drag a patient out of there? How do you safely transport them from the car wreckage to another form of transport? Capacity building in healthcare facilities, how do they handle these emergency services? How do we then develop a curriculum to enable local training? Because like this is very, very important. We need to train where the resources are practical rather than doing the usual ATLS that has been developed in the US that may not be very practical in the resources that we have locally. In terms of collaboration, and then exchange of skills and knowledge, and then something very exciting, and hearing to all the conversations this morning and afternoon, how we can work together to then improve emergency health service here. So this poses an opportunity for us both in Kenya and of course abroad. So how have we mitigated the challenges that we've got through? We've tried to separate ambulances from the Ministry of Health due to the nature of work and urgency. Therefore, they're not called into the usual, nursing duties or any other clinical duties that are required. They have their own independent shorter, regular emergency response training, also being done to try and raise the awareness of emergency training within the institution. Strategies to be stimulated on further employment to cut shortages. We also need a budget allocation for this department because it's a very important department. If this is not handled well, then for us sitting in the hospitals, we might not have patients who treat, or they might come in actually very ill for us to do anything. So, and of course, how do we incorporate emergency medical teams into policies? And therefore, how do we get this into all the things that we do in the hospital as some of priority in our service delivery? Thank you very much. So that was the actual. Just for, again, the team here, especially for the clinical teams, we will be having a session tomorrow at Kisii and Faro Hospital in the morning to try and highlight this. We'll come down to the nitty-gritty exactly what are we experiencing, how can we work together? We have to work to have an ambulance that has everything, or what can we do to work with resources that are there. It's going to be a very exciting session to actually have real conversations. So medical students are available, you're very welcome to the session tomorrow, and for the medical practitioners or any other, you also just welcome.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bahati, Dr. Dom. Now, Kate, understand is online. Is Kate online now? Kate, are you able to unmute, please?
Sorry, I am here.
We expect you to make a few remarks, closing remarks at this point in time, as the lead of the part of the thank you. 2-3 minutes before we close. Welcome, please.
So I've lost where we are. I can't. Rogers, I can't see you at all. Can you hear me?
I've removed the mask so you can see me.
No, I actually can't see anything.
Oh, is the cameras, I believe it's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see now.
Okay,
Okay,
right.
so Kate, what is we are just about concluding, and then we expect you as the lead from that side to make a few remarks, and then we'll be able to go through the resolutions, and then of course our vice chancellor will make a closing remarks as we do this.
Thank you, Rogers. Thank you very much. So it's been a wonderful day. It's been good to hear so much that's going on. it was a real eye-opener, a pleasure for me to listen to the urban plan at the very beginning and hear about all the thoughts and processes that are going through in that urban plan and the design of the urban plan. I also found it very interesting listening to Marlon Brown and how his group is in that ability to help to bring in investors into the projects and move things forwards. It's been wonderful listening to the commentary from everybody about partnerships, wanting partnerships in Western Kenya and supporting the development here. So I feel like there's the background now for us to sort of start answering the question that was put at the beginning by Jamil, which is around including the medical city within the urban plan, and actually then acting upon it and really taking this whole development process forwards. That was the question that was being posed this morning, or that's certainly where Jamil left it this morning. And I can see with the ability to bring in the investments, listening to all of the people that are wanting to invest time into developing the partnerships that will make the whole thing go forwards. I think we're in a good position to have the discussion now about the decisions and make the resolutions to take it forward. So it's been a very enjoyable day. It's been wonderful to listen to and wonderful to hear the meeting progress through the day. I think I'll leave it there, Rogers, and say, apart from one last thing, which is to thank all of you for organising and making the meeting run today, and because I appreciate just how much work goes into that side of it as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think we go straight to the resolutions, and after that we will have our resident close the
The chair, members of the council, vice chancellor, vice chancellors, then here, deans, professors, colleagues from the Ministry of Health, Education, and all other stakeholders from the county leadership, represented by others. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. This is that point where we ask ourselves the big questions. What next? What happens after we leave this place? And how are we going to use and harness these opportunities and this discussion we've had on this day to be able to try and see how best to move these partnerships from where they are to meaningful levels of engagement for purposes of mutual benefits going forward. Picking words, not verbatim, from Professor Kerry Jones, who shared some very wise words last evening with us. Three things. Will to do things. The will is with us. We want to do things. We want to partner together. Followed by the next step, which is now planning and doing things that are related to that, which is, in essence, what we've actually done with the meeting we've had now, we've had from the partnerships that we've had from people going to the UK, team from Manchester coming, and everybody else who's been involved in this program from the very beginning, from its leaders, conceived by our able governor and distinguished and able professionals from across the board within the county and university structures. And then the next step, which is the execution. Execution is the most critical bit of any actualization of any meaningful programs or intentions that any individuals have for any meaningful purposes in life. So As a result of the many things that have been shared here, first of all, I'd like to apologize to everyone present for the inability to have a Q&A session, because I'm sure many of us might have had very many questions to ask to our guests, and also to share on various aspects and points that were coming up during the very many discussions that we've had on this day. But sadly, for logistical reasons, that wasn't possible. And on behalf of the entire KUKA Secretariat in Kisii, I profusely apologize for that. However, there will be time and sessions for these discussions to be raised tomorrow, both at the hospital and at the university. So those who will be able to attend, please kindly help us in that regard by holding your questions till that time. So very quickly, I will mention some of the key punch points that have come out of these discussions. We have opportunities for collaborations in curriculum development, innovation and simulation, as well as in healthcare systems development. We also have reiterated the various different speakers who have been here speaking on the continuation of a journey in these partnerships that started a couple of years back, and we hope that they're going to continue for decades going forward. And borrowing from the words of our VC, who borrowed from the words of Barack Obama, this is the universe that we borrowed from our children rather than inheriting it from our parents. We should leave it a better place than we found it. So that should be our end game. Should also be able to look at the partnerships to nurture exchange of ideas as well as professionals. Our various economic experts mentioned on various aspects of a partnership that would lead to sustainable urban economic development programs. We had what was mentioned in regard to the smart city that would actually lead to the operationalization of the SEHET that you see in front here. SEHET is the Center of Excellence in Research and Education Training that is to come up in Yosia. We're also able to see urban development planning and the various different projects that are coming up. And of particular mention was the various innovations that are coming up that were very much highlighted by Drs. Gadiri and Omedo, particularly on aspects of nutrition, development of nutraceuticals, vaccine development. It's clear that if you are able to develop the vaccine for the Epstein-Barr virus, you're really going to solve a host of problems. And this is clearly an untapped area that we can mutually tap into, bearing in mind the fact that the EBV virus was actually discovered next door to us in Uganda. So why not be the pioneers of developing the same vaccine? Good for health. Now we also have, of course, the various innovative projects that have been supported by the UKA, the avocado, banana, as well as the other upcoming projects. Very, very key fundamental projects in creating incomes, educating our children, as well as creating more healthier lifestyles for our individuals in society. Also, we talked about ensuring keeping children in their communities through supporting clinical care, through virtual programs, conducting grand rounds, having tuber boats, design patient flow and use of available resources to maximize on this, as well as conducting various aspects of curriculum development for the various different areas of potential collaboration that have emerged from discussions from this day today. We also look to ways of harnessing on aspects of simulations using technology, as has been very ably presented by the University of Staffordshire. Also, probably maybe what never really came out very clearly is some conversation that we had with the team last evening on simulations that doesn't require investment on any resources. And of course, it came out very clearly, but probably maybe some of us may have missed it of the way it was presented. But I would like to talk about something that was mentioned yesterday about breaking bad news to patients, caregivers, telling them your patient is going to die. These are things that probably are not in any textbooks and would rightly benefit from aspects such as simulations. This can be maximized because there are no right or wrong answers in this, through mutual arguments and partnerships on the best way to go about it, through probably maybe our cross-cultural interaction, because at the end of the day, we are all people. Also, what has been emphasized is local work. We should also emphasize on our able low-lying fruits. We should maximize on our abilities and energies to be able to build on these partnerships through cross-cutting research that is conducted amongst ourselves locally in Kenyan universities, as well as harnessing what is available for us from abroad. It's also important to mention, probably maybe as a closing remark, words that were highlighted by the chair of the University Council. We are here to light each other's candles, and no candle goes off by lighting another candle. So that should be our take-home message. We have much more that we could have been able to present, but that will probably be made available once we consolidate the larger report for purposes of actionable points going forward. Thank you very much.
Now, John is online. John, please say hello to us. You have been very quiet, but very instrumental working in the background. Dr. John, Mr. John Buto is the coordinator of Kenya UK Alliance in the UK side, and he's actually the lead there so far as whatever doing the planning and so on. Working very close to us. Asante sana, karibu sana, make your remarks.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for giving me this chance to say one or two words. Thank you, everyone, for your participation, particularly those who have traveled from the UK and from the US and within Kenya. So I'm really very grateful. As well as I want to thank the planning committee and the summit secretariat, who have done a fantastic job in the last 1 week. I know it's not easy, but your excellent job has seen this come to a close. I'm particularly very grateful that this summit is a hallmark of the realization of the big vision of our two countries. So it's really a dream coming to a realization, which is a journey which started 2018. We are now in a stage where we can actualize some of those visions which our leaders have signed up to. So I'm really very grateful for the UK partners, particularly the ones who have traveled, the ones who have participated online to make this event a success. I'm also very grateful to our two presidents, President Uhuru Kenyatta and our Prime Minister, for initiating this initiative with the signing up of the Kenya-UK Strategic Health Partnership, which we are all part of. What is our next step is to move forward. A lot has been said. I will not want to go to each particular detail, but is looking how now we can implement some of those ideas now, which are programs that will take us to the next step of getting universal health coverage by 2030. So really, I'm very, very grateful to the partners who have stepped forward to realize this. As this is a presidential initiative, I believe that from here going forward, the teams at the Ministry of Health and Education will have a report, a progress report that you'll be forwarding to the president of the progress you have made, as well as the challenges, as well as the next steps, so that we can realize we are now at the point where implementation is key. And when we are talking implementation, we are talking about resources. I was very happy that the Kisii team, especially the team with the Swede, who are very keen to incorporate the new upcoming Health Excellence Center as part of the strategic smart city coming, urban development coming out of Kisii. And I believe this will be a transformative as well as life-changing for our communities and our people, not only within the region, but across the region of East African community. As we are now, we are about 350 million people. So we are looking forward, not just Kisii, but looking at the region as a whole. And finally, I'm also very grateful to the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Health, who are very key drivers of this initiative, because without them, we will not be here. So I'm really very grateful to the PS, the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Health, who have been very, very, very supportive of this initiative. So as I stand here and listen, I am really keen that next year, though we have started now, this will be an annual event. We'll be making our announcements early enough so that we can start planning and making next year even more successful than what we have seen today. So thank you so much, everyone. And feel yourself, you are a part of a new transformative journey of changing Africa. Africa is needing change, and the leadership has started from here. We are always considered a continent which is disorganized, which is war and other things. But today, you have demonstrated that Africa is ready for change, is ready for development, and let's start. And I'm very grateful for everyone. Thank you, everyone, for coming and being part of this new hallmark change. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, appreciate you even better. We are one of the very few who united this process, and we are happy that it is almost being realized. Thank you so much, and God bless you. Be with us. We are about to finish. I really don't want to waste time because I know you are very tired. It has been a long day. The presentations were relatively longer, but there's nothing we can do. A long day. The presentation have really done a great job. And we put our hands together for ourselves. Really made some vote of thanks. He has run that, but I want it to be done better, or just to be complemented, to have a supplementary of the same. And at this point, I want to welcome Dr. Kenani, just to appreciate, to make a vote of thanks, and then thereafter, our Vice Chancellor will come and officially close the summit. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Indeed, a vote of thanks has already been issued to Guto, but maybe I just mention a few others, and I'll be very brief because I know we're all tired. I want to appreciate Team UK. Coming all the way and come here, it shows you are committed to what you want to do together. Team US, what to appreciate Team US. we want to appreciate the two ministries, national ministries, the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Education. They also did travel all the way to Nairobi, from Nairobi to come and join us. We want to appreciate it. Our universities, Egerton University, Maseno University, and Stephen Boliro University. Also, the respective counties. This thing is not being done like this one. The 4 counties, Nakuru, Kisii, Kisumu, Kakamega, and Siaya. Want to appreciate your presence. Of course, our VC and the chair of the board, they have stayed here with us the whole day. That shows they're really committed to this. Of course, the names of the various universities who are here, we want to appreciate you too. Why don't you appreciate the presenters? The ICT team, who have done a wonderful job beaming our transmitting what we are doing here and putting us in touch with the people in the UK. We want to appreciate you. And of course, during that process of making us talk to our brothers and sisters in the UK, the online participants, we want to appreciate them, please. The venue here, I'm sure you're enjoying the tea, sure you're enjoying the lunch. Some of the food there was African, I hope you enjoyed it. We want to appreciate Kisii for this facility and for taking care of us during the daytime. By the way, this thing would have not been successful if all of you did not attend. So why don't we appreciate each other, including myself? Thank you very much. As indicated, we are coming to the end of today's program, but tomorrow is visiting day. We are going to have one-on-one discussion. We're going to visit the various institutions, both at the county hospital and at the university. And we are hoping that at the end of the day, if we could have some form of memorandum of understanding, so that it forms the basis for what we want to go and do together. I want to thank you all for making time, spending your money to come here. It's late in the evening, but I think we have had a successful event. Go with God's spirit. Thank you.
Now it's time to bring on board our able Vice Chancellor to make this closing remark. But there are some individuals who appreciate it. That's not easy. The organizing committee, you are not measured. I think the money for what you measure. We did agree to thank you.
Now, and I can say that people are now tired. The sweater will have gone down, and I don't want to make some kind of anticlimax. There's some people here whom we didn't even introduce, but they're very, very, very critical in our university ecosystem. We have got members of top management here, particularly the two DVCs. Can you stand, Professor Professor Joseph Mairuza, the DBC in charge of finance planning, and then Professor Anakole Stanley is the DBC in charge of academic and student affairs. As far as the university is concerned, we have had deans here who have probably sitting here, deans of schools. Can you stand at this? Here is the Dean of Agriculture, Professor Basweti, the Dean of Education, last year, the Dean of Computer Science and Technology, the Dean of Arts and Social Sciences, so and other people. And we have students here from the School of Health Sciences. Can you stand? Or maybe for students, the staff of the School of Health Sciences. These are very critical people. Can you clap for them? All the students from the School of Health Sciences. These are very good doctors, very good. Yeah, for them. I really don't have anything to say, because if I start talking, I'll be repeating what has already been said. But I want to emphasize the fact that this engagement has been very successful. In fact, you can see that the time wasn't even enough. I think what we had to cover was even for more than 2-3 days. But we have done the best we can. Really, as a university and the chair of the council, we have to thank the chair of the council for your patience and for your interest in these issues of healthcare training and healthcare service provision. We are very, in fact, we as management, we are very much humbled at the level of ideas which have been exchanged in this today's summit. I think you can compare and contrast the presenters from Kenya and then the presenters from the UK. But I will emphasize again that talking individually with our distinguished visitors from the UK, they feel that we need to move some issues, we need to move very fast on. Like the team from Staffordshire, team and the brother Joe here, they are talking about the issue of training, particularly in paramedical training. Is a really low-lying fruit which we need to move forward. And also even on the issues of what the Dean was talking about, of Asina Mulilo, of the issue of simulation and maybe termination, and even pedagogy. You know, what the chair of the council was talking about, those 5 stages of training, you know, a medical personnel. So my understanding here is that probably, even if the details will be quite extensive, maybe Dean try to see whether you can make it possible for a few minutes, meet with the team, Staffordshire. Also, you know, Catherine from, you know, Hardy Hospital, and also, you know, Professor Kelly Jones, also particularly that approach. By the way, the ideas which you have given us from the UK, we can call them, they are very innovative ideas, by the way, for us here. And if we move forward and apply them, I think we will really add a lot of value to what we are doing here as far as issues of universal healthcare, you know, coverage is concerned. So we will also meet with the team from Catherine and Professor Kelly, and then see how we can work together. Particularly, you know, Professor Kelly is very much as a scholar that is really hands-on, particularly here in Kenya, in particularly developing the idea of systems approach in the provision of medical service. And you have heard from Catherine that the hospital, she comes from probably one of the best hospitals in the world. So those are really low-hanging fruits, which we need really to start, harvesting. We have got to emphasize, I'm sorry, I'm to make another story, that this project, the people from the ministry who are here, the Ministry of Health, and the Ministry of Education, I have got to emphasize that I had a privilege of joining a team of our visitors who came the other time from the UK. We went to see the president, and the president, Uhuru Kenyatta, expressed a lot of enthusiasm on this project. He said one key statement, that when he leaves office, come August, just a few weeks from now, he wanted to make sure that this project, the Kenya-UK Medic Alliance, particularly the pillar on universal health, education, and training, should be implemented to the level that it will be universal, so that the government which takes over will carry on with the project because it has already picked up. And because of that, we are really we are really moving very fast against time. We have worked hard, particularly the team, the dean, and the people you have seen here, the people from our hospital, Dr. Kenani. We have come up with a very good concept document, which has been submitted to the government. But that document, because of what we call bureaucratic and red tapes, that document is not moving fast enough. As we talk now, that document is at the level of the two ministries, the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Health. The Ministry of Education has already given a concurrence with that concept document. The Ministry of Health, they have not done that. And we need humbly, with a lot of humility, to request that this will be done, the Ministry of Health, so that we move forward. The document is taken out to Treasury, so that Treasury can issue what they call a sovereign guarantee document, which would allow now the UK government to release some of the funds which they are already willing to give us to start the construction of the teaching and referral hospital here at our almost 100 acre land near here at Nosia. So what we are doing here, this gentleman here, the gentleman, I don't know where he went. Marlon, sorry. You are going to get him. He talks, he talks about money. And it was mostly based on the figures here, which was they appear to be really like green figures, Please engage him. These are the kind of people who can assist in providing resources. He's a very innovative person. He's a really Africanist. I really like to engage him, isn't it? So that we start, the issue of developing that, modern city, developing that, smart city with this inbuilt teaching, and the revival kind of campus, hospital. Jamil, we are very thankful for your very creative understanding of many issues. So there are many other people we are not be able to thank from the UK, the Jeremy, the gentleman there who's very key in this arrangement. And if you have been here, was it not because another community we had in Uganda? So I'm seeing people who are highly committed. I'm just standing before people here really who can move this project further. So I appreciate the commitment, and I believe that before President Uhuru Kenyatta leaves office, come sometimes in August, these projects will be help and learning, particularly in having clarity in the issuance of the sovereign guarantee document, which is very important for us to access the funds from the UK. And of course, our brother there from the USA will also assist in terms of resources and even our brothers and sisters there. So I really wish everybody a very good night. Whoever is traveling, I wish you very masses. Tomorrow is going to be a very interesting day because it will be now visiting some of our facilities and seeing exactly what goes on the day-to-day basis. So thank you very much, our students, you are our key stakeholders. We are here for you guys, and we know that the future is going to be bright. So with that, tomorrow, again, interestingly, we'll be having visitors. We'll be having the Vice Chancellor of the University, the Technical University of Greece. He will be here. I will be meeting in the morning hours, and maybe later when we come to the campus, the university, we will join together with him as we make a campus tour. So you can see that the world is becoming very much integrated. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and I wish you all the best. And we pray that this historical relationship between the UK and Kenya may go on for years and years to come, and obviously it will outlive all of us. So thank you very much. Na Mungu awabariki. God bless all of you. Thank you.
Now, this point is just stand. Then I have a closing prayer from one of us. I don't know whether that is if it's not allowed, any other participant will just come out. Ladies, just come out. Those then thereafter we'll remain standing, and then we'll run the national anthem, and then we'll thank you.
Let us believe and pray. Mighty and everlasting Father, we have come before thy presence at the end of this day. We are so grateful because of your mercy, your grace and provisions in every way for having led us through the very engaging moments we have shared with our partners, organizations, and other stakeholders. Lord of glory, the brains that have been here have got the good intention of bringing a grand change in our country. We thank you for the good parts and this kind of initiative. Loving Father, some of us have spoken passionately of what we would like to see. We know, Lord, you have heard us and you have seen and you know the intentions of our hearts. And for this reason, we commit this very big project and you are very able hands. We know soon and very soon our positions might change here and there, but Lord of Heaven, for the sake of this entire region and Kenya and even East Africa, bring this dream to a reality. Bless all of our friends who travel from the UK. Bless the people from the various counties represented here, from the various institutions, those who travel from the UK, those who have been online or God, mighty Father, we all and keep us in good health, protect us from harm and danger, and King of glory, help us during this time when we are preparing to have our national elections, that will bring people who have got the interest of the last politics and the suffering in the society at heart, that we will take care of our economy and we will grow it, because this is a land of plenty. My father, as we pass from here, we pray that this relationship will continue growing and we will continue networking, so that, Lord, we learn from each other and we build each other as we wait for your second coming. May your grace be sufficient for each and every one of us, and bless this facility where we have been the entire day. It is our humble prayer in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. We will follow the same order. So during lunchtime, we allow our visitors to leave first. Then we go that order. There is also tea. Kindly take tea before you leave. It has already been made and it's ready. It's on the table. Enjoy your tea.
Okay.